The Cleveland Browns situation has officially spiraled into absolute madness, and I'm not being dramatic when I say that what's happening with Shedeur Sanders right now is organizational sabotage disguised as coaching decisions. Tommy Rees, the quarterback's coach, basically went nuclear without actually saying anything publicly, and that might be the most damning part of this entire mess. Because when your position coach is out there on the field working with a player who's supposedly too injured to be active when he's running drills and giving coaching points to someone the head coach claims isn't ready, that's not just a difference of opinion. That's open rebellion happening right in front of everyone's eyes. Let me paint the full picture here because the context is absolutely crucial to understanding just how dysfunctional things have become in Cleveland. After another embarrassing loss to the Patriots where Dillon Gabriel looked completely lost and overmatched, Kevin Stefanski pulled out the oldest trick in the coaching playbook. He claimed Shedeur Sanders had a back injury that prevented him from being active for the game. Except here's the problem with that story. Tommy Rees was caught on camera working extensively with Shedeur during pregame warm-ups. Not just casual throwing, actual coaching, running through progressions, giving detailed feedback, the whole 9 yards. And Shedeur looked absolutely fine. No visible discomfort, no limitations in his movement, no signs whatsoever of someone dealing with a back injury serious enough to keep him off the active roster. Reese was calm and professional the entire time, which honestly makes his silent protest even more powerful and effective. He didn't need to go on some rant or call out Stefanski in the media. His actions spoke louder than any press conference possibly could. By actively coaching Shedeur during warm-ups, by treating him like a quarterback who was fully capable of playing, Reese was essentially saying, without actually saying it, that this whole injury narrative is complete nonsense. The message was crystal clear to anyone paying attention. This dude could easily handle the backup quarterback role if anyone in the organization actually used common sense and made decisions based on merit rather than whatever ego-driven agenda is driving Stefanski's choices. Meanwhile, Stfansky is standing there clutching his clipboard like it's some kind of protective talisman that will ward off all the criticism and questions about his quarterback management. He's trying desperately to act like nothing unusual is happening, like if he just maintains his normal demeanor and sticks to the script, reality will somehow bend to match his narrative. Spoiler alert, it's not working. That field was screaming facts louder than any carefully crafted press conference statement ever could. The contrast between what Stefanski was claiming and what everyone could see with their own eyes was stark and undeniable. Just stop and think about how absolutely wild this situation is when you break it down. You have a young, talented quarterback who absolutely dominated at the college level, who showed elite production and decision-making, who's ready and willing to step up and contribute to the team. And instead of utilizing that asset, instead of giving him opportunities to develop and potentially help the team win, the head coach has decided to turn this into some bizarre psychological power struggle. Except these aren't abstract chess pieces being moved around a board. These are real human beings with careers and aspirations, and everyone on that sideline and in that locker room knows exactly what's happening. Then you've got the shot of Myles Garrett, the defensive superstar who's having another incredible season, walking around the sideline with visible frustration written all over his face and body language. You could see it plain as day. He's a man who just discovered that his favorite meal got replaced with cardboard, and he's expected to pretend it tastes fine. Garrett wants to win more than anything. That's what drives elite competitors at his level. Watching Shedeur just standing there on the sideline when the offense desperately needs any kind of spark or energy, when they need someone who can make plays and move the ball, that's genuinely insulting to every player who's out there bleeding and sacrificing for the team every single Sunday. And there's Shedeur, maintaining his composure and professionalism despite this absurd situation, probably wondering if he needs to show up with a full medical examination from 3 independent doctors just to prove he's healthy enough to play football. Meanwhile, Tommy Rees has become the only person in the entire organization who's keeping the Browns from completely combusting and falling apart. Everyone else is out there pretending the sky isn't falling, pretending everything's fine and under control, while Rees is quietly holding the pieces together and actually doing his job of developing quarterbacks. Reese was out there during those warm-ups, calm as ever, guiding Shedeur through progressions and drills like a man on a very specific mission. You didn't even need words or statements to understand the message he was sending. It was written in every coaching point, every correction, every moment of instruction. The unspoken communication was deafening. He was basically declaring that if this coaching staff and organization can't figure out how to properly utilize talent, he'll build and develop the future himself. Thank you very much. That quiet confidence is actually dangerous in the best possible way. He's training a potential star quarterback while the rest of the staff is stuck arguing over nonsense and political considerations that have nothing to do with winning football games. Meanwhile, poor Dylan Gabriel, the so-called starter who Stefanski has inexplicably tied himself to, was out there during the actual game doing his best impression of someone who has no business starting at this level. And by best, I mean absolutely flopping like a fish that's been thrown onto a hot sidewalk. The guy looked completely lost and overwhelmed by what was happening around him. Short passes that died about 5 yards from the line of scrimmage with no zip or accuracy. Long throws that traveled to completely wrong zip codes, nowhere near the intended receiver. It was chaos in motion, a masterclass in how not to play quarterback in the National Football League. Every single snap looked like a brand new chapter in a comprehensive guide on how to lose a football game in real time. And through it all, throughout this entire embarrassing display, you have Shedeur Sanders standing there on the sideline. Laser focused, calm, ready, probably capable of throwing a football through a keyhole while blindfolded and simultaneously solving complex calculus problems in his head. But nope, he's stuck watching like it's some kind of extended detention, forced to be a spectator while inferior talent struggles and the team suffers. Then here comes Skip Bayless, never one to hold back his opinions or sugarcoat his analysis. The man jumped on this mess like it was the freshest gossip in sports, absolutely ripping the narrative to shreds on live television. And here's the beautiful part that makes this whole thing even more powerful. Tommy Rees didn't have to say a single controversial word publicly. He didn't need to go on some media tour or make dramatic statements. His actions on that field said absolutely everything that needed to be said. The silent rebellion, the quiet defiance of working with Shedeur despite the official organizational stance. It hit so much harder than any heated press conference rant possibly could have. And then we have Stefanski standing there in his coaching gear like a man desperately clinging to the last piece of toast on a rapidly sinking ship. He's out here publicly insisting that Shedeur's back is the genuine problem, pretending like the extensive pregame warm-up didn't happen or doesn't count, acting like he alone possesses some special knowledge about what's best for the team that nobody else can possibly understand. Meanwhile, literally anyone with functioning eyeballs and basic observational skills can clearly see that Shedeur was ready to play. Not just kind of ready or maybe ready, fully ready to contribute. The denial has reached absolutely peak levels. Its stubbornness served on a silver platter with a generous side of confusion and organizational dysfunction. And don't even get me started on analyzing Myles Garrett's facial expressions and body language during all of this. That man's frustration could legitimately power an entire NFL stadium right now if we could somehow harness it as an energy source. Garrett is out there every single week going full beast mode, absolutely wrecking offensive lines like it's deeply personal, stacking sacks and pressures and game-changing plays like he's creating highlight reels on perpetual repeat. He's dragging the entire defense on his broad shoulders while the offense keeps repeatedly tripping over itself in embarrassing fashion. You can practically hear his internal thoughts screaming at maximum volume. I'm doing absolutely everything within my power, playing at an elite level week after week, and we're still somehow living in this absurd quarterback soap opera that makes no football sense whatsoever. Somebody please fix this organizational mess before I lose my mind. The frustration is written all over him in every camera shot. He's visibly upset on the sideline, making faces, throwing what can only be described as death stares at everyone within a 5-yard radius. The man just wants to win football games at the highest level. Watching that offense try to function effectively is genuinely like watching someone pour ketchup on vanilla ice cream and then try to call it fine dining. It's wrong on every conceivable level. The rhythm is completely off, the energy is flat and lifeless, and the whole operation just feels cursed by some kind of football gods. But standing in the middle of that organizational chaos is Tommy Rees, the quiet hero that absolutely nobody in the media is giving nearly enough credit to for holding things together. He's the glue that's somehow keeping the locker room from completely fracturing, the steady hand guiding Shedeur through absolute madness while probably writing his eventual "I told you so" speech in his head for when the front office finally acknowledges reality and stops pretending everything's fine when it clearly isn't. Reese represents calm in the middle of a hurricane of terrible decisions. He's the lighthouse keeping Shedeur from getting completely lost in the thick fog of organizational dysfunction, while everyone else with authority is busy arguing about optics and carefully crafted press quotes and protecting reputations. He's laser focused on what actually matters most, which is football and player development. He's quietly building something real and substantial, while the official leadership is busy sinking deeper into denial with each passing week. And the cracks in this facade are showing everywhere you look if you pay even slight attention. Stefanski's stubborn loyalty to Dillon Gabriel, despite overwhelming evidence that it's not working, is turning the entire locker room into a pressure cooker that's about to explode. The players can see what's happening clear as day. The fans see it and are vocally furious about it. Even the local beat reporters are starting to catch on and ask harder questions. And here's the wild part that makes this situation even more fascinating. The more chaos and dysfunction that Stefanski creates through his stubbornness, the brighter Tommy Rees shines by comparison. Cool, composed, quietly professional, and steadily outclassing everyone around him in terms of actual football coaching. You can almost feel the tension and divided loyalties developing in that locker room based on body language and subtle cues. Players are probably having quiet conversations thinking to themselves, maybe this quarterback's coach is actually the guy who should be calling plays and making personnel decisions instead of the head coach who seems determined to drive this thing into the ground. Then, when media members and reporters come around asking questions about Shedeur Sanders, all Stefanski would have to do is handle it with basic professionalism and honesty. Just say, look, I understand that Shedeur has a big personality, and he's known globally because of his father and his college career. But I know Shedeur Sanders as a person and as a player from what I see here every day. He works incredibly hard, he's intelligent, and processes information quickly. He puts in the work, studying film and learning the system. He's humble despite the attention, and he's a great teammate. I hope you all get an opportunity to see those qualities eventually when he gets on the field. That simple, honest response would immediately diffuse all the negative articles and speculation. People would back off and give him space. But since Stefanski refuses to even say Shedeur's name in most contexts, since he treats the whole situation like some bizarre taboo subject that can't be discussed openly, the vultures circle and the media frenzy intensifies. Tommy Rees is earning quiet respect from players and outside observers, while Stefanski's playbook and decision-making process starts looking more and more like a bad punchline to an unfunny joke. And then the fan outrage hits absolute full throttle and goes completely viral. Twitter is on fire with angry takes and conspiracy theories. TikTok is looping clips of Shedeur's supposedly injured warm-up routine like it's the Zapruder film being analyzed frame by frame. Every single sports show in America is breaking down his body language and movement patterns with forensic detail. The narrative is everywhere and impossible to ignore. How can a quarterback who's supposedly hurt enough to be inactive look that sharp and fluid in pre-game warm-ups? The cognitive dissonance is overwhelming. Meanwhile, Stefanski stands there stubborn as an ancient statue, completely unmoved by criticism or evidence. Seriously, this man could outlast the figures on Mount Rushmore in a staring contest. He absolutely refuses to bend or adapt his position, clinging desperately to a plan that is clearly and obviously falling apart in real time. And right across from him on that same sideline, Tommy Rees is calmly threading the needle, proving through actions what real leadership actually looks like. No loud dramatic speeches, no theatrical gestures for the cameras, just steady intelligent moves, smart choices based on merit, and cool confidence while the rest of the building loses its collective mind. Back on the field during actual games, every incomplete pass from Gabriel stings like brutal deja vu. Every wasted timeout, every lost yard, every 3 and out, it all screams that the Browns' problems go way deeper than just talent or execution. This is about ego, about terrible decisions made for the wrong reasons, about pride disguised as strategy and principle. You can literally feel it in the air around the facility and during games. It's chaos, wearing a headset and carrying a clipboard, pretending to be organized and competent. And through absolutely all of this dysfunction and drama, Shedeur Sanders remains the quiet MVP of pure unrealized potential. His throws during those warm-ups are laser sharp with perfect spirals. His reads and processing speed are legitimately next level advanced. His movement in the pocket is smooth as silk, but instead of leading the offense and helping the team, instead of getting opportunities to develop and contribute, he's stuck watching from the sidelines. His considerable talent collecting dust while the team crumbles in real time every single Sunday. Stefanski is still desperately holding on to Dillon Gabriel like a small child, clutching his favorite security blanket, absolutely refusing to let go no matter what anyone says, insisting with a straight face that everything's fine and that Shedur's injury situation is totally legitimate and above board. But let's be completely real and honest here. Fans don't buy it for a single second, players don't buy it based on what they see daily, and honestly, anyone with a functioning heartbeat and basic critical thinking skills can see straight through the transparent act. Still, Stefanski keeps digging his heels in deeper, and every single stubborn decision he makes is costing the Browns in tangible ways. Every snap that goes to Gabriel instead of giving Shedeur a chance feels like watching golden opportunity slip through their fingers in slow motion. Every time the broadcast camera cuts to Shedeur on the sideline, standing there calm and locked in and ready to contribute, it's a painful reminder of what's being systematically wasted. Meanwhile, Tommy Rees is over there playing three-dimensional chess, while Stefanski is still trying to figure out the basic rules of checkers. Reese is quietly coaching Shedeur behind the scenes, away from cameras and attention, keeping him sharp and engaged, running a legitimate masterclass in patience and professional development, while Stefanski waves that clipboard around like it's a magic wand that stopped working weeks ago, but he hasn't noticed yet. You don't have to be an expert analyst or former coach to see the stark contrast. Reese is calm, strategic, focused entirely on results and player development. Stefanski is obsessed with image management, apparently allergic to any form of accountability, and far too stubborn to admit when something clearly isn't working. The Browns' offense isn't broken and dysfunctional because of a lack of raw talent on the roster. It's broken because the man supposedly steering the ship refuses to change course even as they're heading straight toward the rocks. It doesn't make any logical sense that Shedeur is listed as the second-string quarterback, but he's not getting any meaningful first-team repetitions in practice. It also doesn't make sense that he's apparently not being considered to play in any games this year, regardless of circumstances or how badly Gabriel struggles. But this recent comment from Tommy Rees represents the first time anyone has actually heard something substantive about the planning and development strategy for any of the Browns quarterbacks, especially when it comes to Shedeur specifically. At least Reese is being honest and transparent. He's acknowledging the reality that Shedeur isn't going to get a ton of practice repetitions with the first team offense, but emphasizing that they're going to maximize and make the most of whatever opportunities do exist. That's actual coaching. That's actual player development philosophy being articulated. And here's where everything gets increasingly real and urgent. The clock is ticking louder with each passing week. Every game where Shedeur is kept off the field, every Sunday where Gabriel folds under pressure and the offense sputters, it's another massive hit to Stefanski's rapidly deteriorating credibility. Fans are absolutely furious and vocal about their frustration. Players are whispering to each other and to media members through back channels, and even rival coaches around the league are probably shaking their heads in disbelief, wondering what on earth is happening in Cleveland. This isn't just about which quarterback throws the football anymore. It's about who actually has the backbone and leadership qualities to make tough decisions and do what's best for the organization rather than what's best for protecting egos. The Browns are standing at a critical crossroads right now, and if they pick the wrong path again, if they continue down this same dysfunctional road, it could result in the same tragic story playing out once more. Different season, different year, but the exact same heartbreak and disappointment for everyone involved. Tommy Rees is out here being the unsung hero, the steady hand in a storm of objectively bad decisions. While everyone else is yelling, panicking, or pretending everything's fine when it obviously isn't, Rees is calmly building the blueprint for what the Browns could actually become if someone with authority would just let him lead. Meanwhile, Kevin Stefanski is still desperately clinging to his version of events and his preferred narrative like it's the last life raft on a rapidly sinking ship. He keeps pushing the exact same tired story to anyone who will listen. Dillon Gabriel is unquestionably the guy. Shedeur's back is a legitimate issue, and somehow, magically, everything is under control and going according to plan. Please, nobody with functioning brain cells is buying that exhausted narrative anymore. Reality is written all over the field in big bold letters every Sunday. The Browns' offense is clearly sputtering and dysfunctional. The locker room atmosphere is increasingly tense, and fans are losing patience faster than a weak Wi-Fi signal during a thunderstorm. Shedeur Sanders stands there on that sideline, calm and composed and confident, the one player that absolutely everybody watching knows could flip this entire story in an instant if just given the legitimate chance. Myles Garrett's fury and frustration is visibly bubbling over too. The man is completely tired of watching talent rot unused on the bench, while the same broken system keeps running in pointless circles. Behind the curtain and away from cameras, Tommy Rees is quietly working, guiding Shedeur's development, somehow patching team morale together, and piecing together an actual coherent plan for the future, while Stefanski keeps waving his clipboard like it's going to magically fix everything that's broken. The contrast between these two coaches couldn't possibly be any clearer or more stark. Reese represents the future and what competent leadership looks like. Stefanski has become the anchor holding them back and dragging them down. And let's be brutally honest here. Doubling down on stubborn pride in the NFL is about as effective as trying to stop a freight train using a paper airplane. It's not going to work, and everyone except apparently Stefanski can see that obvious reality. The stage is absolutely set for drama. The fans are loud and demanding change. The players are restless and frustrated, and the coaching staff looks split right down the middle with obvious philosophical differences. Shedeur Sanders is ready to play football at the highest level. Tommy Rees is ready to lead and develop quarterbacks properly. And Stefanski, well, he's just ready to watch his own self-created chaos continue to unfold while pretending he has everything under control. So what actually happens next in this organizational soap opera? Does Shedeur eventually get a fair shot at that backup spot and potentially more? Does Reese's quiet competence eventually get recognized and rewarded? Or will Stefanski's pride and stubbornness drive the Browns even deeper into the storm before someone with authority finally steps in and makes necessary changes? The entire NFL is watching this situation unfold, and it's becoming impossible to look away from the dysfunction.